What music is that?
It's from a artist out of Europe called Vila.
Oh.
And the song's
okay.
called San Francisco. And it's pretty cute. So she's talking at the beginning and she just tells Tony, I wish you were a drag queen. And, it's a pretty fun song about, her love affair with San Francisco, the city. And it's kind of a EDM, electronic dance music type song. She does a lot of EDM music and festivals all around the world. But cool. Hey, everybody, glad y'all could join our conversation about dance music. And this is Two Queers in the Truck, and I'm Jenny-Jaymes Gunn with my show partner, Christian Cano. And it is the fourth Wednesday of January of 2022. We're going to coming at you with 6 interesting topics as we've gone to the new format of doing 6 topics in a little over 30 minutes. So we're going to jump right into it. The first topic has been aptly titled "The Young and the Useless," and it's because the musical artist Neil Young told Spotify they could remove all of his songs off there as long as they still publish Joe Rogan's podcast. And the reason being is that he's tired of people dying because people are lying about vaccines and disinformation, that Joe Rogan's not a doctor, so he's not qualified to broadcast. And so Neil Young is taking a personal stand and says, I don't want any more royalties. I don't want my music on there. I don't want to associate with any network that is willing to promote things that can kill people. Yeah. And it's an interesting battle. And I read about this on Twitter. And what do you think about Neil Young taking this for him, it's a costly deal because I'm sure he makes a lot of money off royalties on Spotify. Maybe not as much as maybe a Lady Gaga or something contemporary, but he probably still has quite a few followers and people that love his music. What's your thoughts on that?
I think it's a good move because it is him practicing the free market. And he has every right, just as someone who says, I have every right not to take a shot or wear a mask. He has every right to say, I don't want my music on this platform. And I hope this will send a signal to other socially aware artists who will say, you know what? I don't want my music on, or I don't want my podcast on. Our podcast is actually on Spotify. So maybe we have to make a decision in a month. Let's give it a month, Jen.
Yeah, we haven't been on, but
let's give it a month.
But
you know what I mean. Yeah.
And that's an interesting take from the fact that we're using some of their same logic about, the market and free market and freedom and all that. Because, quite honestly, for a couple things, one, you're seeing this rash of different right-wing conspiracy theorists that are getting deplatformed for whatever reason. And for one reason, you have a liability as an entity, whether you're a direct TV or anything, when you see something wrong and it's visibly killing hundreds of thousands of people. Like, COVID denial and COVID lies and disinformation, when clearly worldwide, I think worldwide, 97% or 98% of the doctors out there, actual licensed doctors, are vaccinated. So clearly they believe they're risking, and for at least for American doctors that make high 6-figure to low 7-figure salaries in some cases, like a cardiothoracic surgeon probably makes 10 or 15 or $20 million a year. Yeah. They're literally, if they thought the vaccine was that dangerous, they would take their chances with COVID. But, they are doctors for a reason. Like they're pretty savvy and they understand.
But you know what? Sorry, Jen. No, I apologize because I'm actually in Somalia from the show before this one. It makes you wonder, and you and I have talked about this before. It makes you wonder many things, but the one thing that boggles my mind is these anti-vaxxers and these anti-maskers and these conspiracy theorist people, they actually want us to believe that suddenly, after even the ones we've known for a while, you are smarter than the professional person who does this for a living. What makes them think that we are so stupid? And that's actually, it's almost an insult, because they think we are so stupid that they can sit in front of us and go, well, I've seen the data, this. And we have, in the past, we've been so polite by going, oh, that's interesting. Which internally we're like, you're so full of shit. Why would I believe you? I mean, the fact that they actually think we would believe them is,
and when
I don't even know how to describe that.
So, and when you do confront somebody that's that full of crap, and then they throw you a YouTube video going, well, that's a self-published video. That's not a scientific study. It was not peer-reviewed in a university. Like there's
I'm not sure about that.
There was literally no vetting of that information. So it's a shocking. Number one, if you have any sense in the world to ever follow that advice, but there's a few people that do. But I will say, when I have talked to my peers, my friends, or they've responded to a pro-vaccination, thing that I put on one of my social media accounts, and they'll message me privately and say, Jenny, I'm not vaccinated yet. But could I talk to you about it? And of course, I'm always happy to, help people. And I go, my first question to any of them, have you actually talked to a pharmacist or your personal doctor? Like, do you have a medical professional in either one of those two categories that you trust? Ask them first. Don't take my word for it. Don't take the shot because of me. But don't not take it and gamble with your life because of them. And so, like, I don't want you to commit suicide by COVID because you're listening to an idiot or somebody that's not trained in vaccines. So we'll segue from that. And we got something that's a similar topic, but a different topic. Open carry unless you're black is our next topic. Ooh. There is a YouTuber, a African American man that lives in South Carolina that wanted to videotape on. Well, he did videotape on public ground here in South Carolina, just south of us. It was on public property. He was on a sidewalk outside of the county buildings there in rural South Carolina, but he also was carrying a gun. And he holstered. He had it, safely. He wasn't waving it around. He wasn't threatening anybody. And I saw this on Instagram, so I'm a big fan of Instagram. I've got a lot of followers on there, and it was on one of the progressive pages there. And he was basically, when the video, he was basically knew he was going to get some police reaction because their headquarters was right there in that building, that county building. And they were all, about 8 of them all together came up to this one black man and started saying, well, you can't do this. You can't videotape on county property. And he said, well, I'm outside, so I'm on public property. I'm allowed to videotape. And then they said, well, you're carrying a gun, so isn't that, not normal? And they were trying to make the case that being not normal is enough for them, the police, to try to stop it.
Sure.
And of course, it was 8 cops, one black man, and one of the white cops actually had their hand on their gun the whole time. With the, how there's that little leather strap that holds the gun in. Had that uncocked, and he was ready to pull the gun the whole time. We're having this very civil conversation, and basically none of the 8 cops really knew what the law was. And basically the gentleman that was videoing this was schooling these guys on the law. That what he was allowed to do open carry, so this is an open carry state. And 2, he said, I'm allowed constitutionally to videotape on public property. I'm not inside the county building, so the rules don't apply. And these guys are trying to do all the arguments. Well, this is so irregular, it's so weird, and trying to gaslight him into complying. At the very end of the video, these guys walk off. They just go, okay, well, we're done with this. And they go, don't break the law. And the best answer from the camera guy was, no, y'all break the law.
Yeah.
And turn it right back around on them, because basically they were lying about the law. They were committing fraud. Yeah. They were literally, he proved on camera that they're willing to lie and commit fraud on public property. And it was just hilarious how every one of their intimidation games, he just calmly turns them around.
Sure.
And just takes on these 8 white cops and just schools them on the law.
Yeah.
It is embarrassing, to say the least. And this shows, I mean, we talked about this in our previous show on the coffee show. About white supremacy. Yeah. And this video is literally white supremacy personified. If white supremacy had a video representing itself, it literally would be this video.
That's why, Jenny, I will repeat what I've said before. And if there is a civil war in America, which I don't think there is, but let's just say there is. But let's just do the conspiracy people's arguments. If there is a civil war in America, if you're a Democrat or a progressive person or a person of color, and you don't feel comfortable in the state that you live, you're probably going to move to a state where you feel more comfortable. New York, New Jersey, Illinois, some of the big states, all right? If you're a person who does not feel comfortable in a blue state and you're a Republican, you're probably going to stay there thinking that you can actually overrun the Democrats. What's going to happen is, because I saw this on a blip of this on Bill Maher on Friday, this guy predicted what would happen if we had a civil war. The blue states have more population, more Black and brown people. I'm just going to generalize, more people who have not as much to lose financially. And they are probably going to win a civil war because the red states, I'm not afraid of it doesn't take, it's not hard to get a gun in America. And if there was a civil war, even though some of the white supremacists have gathered guns and weapons and whatever, all it takes is a drone to blow them up. Right. And to mention, if there was a civil war, which is what they're predicting, it would happen in 2024 after the election, because Trump would lose and he would not want to give up power. And Biden is still the commander in chief, and Ms. Harris, Vice President Harris is still the vice president. I know I mutilated her name. I'm just like so embarrassed. Mutilated her name. And the military is still under control of Democrats. Our military is very, very powerful. I am not afraid that if there was a civil war. So that's my 2 points.
And the good thing is, white supremacists are 0-2 against the American military. Exactly. They're not. They will always be losers. One, because you're an idiot if you're a white supremacist. And 2, good always triumphs over evil. The next topic is, now you are messing with a son of a bitch. This week, Joe Biden had enough of Peter douchebag Ducey from Fox News, and had been harassing, Biden's employee, Jen Psaki, the whole time, this whole last year, just being ridiculous. And so, President Biden was having a press conference, and right as he's in, just as little douchebag Ducey is trying to run out of the deal, he tries to throw a little question bomb, or like he always just tries to subtly put a conspiracy theory out there, some jackass idea. And of course, Biden frames it exactly. He says what Jen Psaki wishes she could say, but she'd get in so much trouble. But Biden's the president, and he just basically, says, "Oh yeah, inflation, whatever." And then, what a dumb son of a bitch. And and if you're a progressive or a moderate, you absolutely loved it, because you got to just be tired of Peter douchebag. And he's just got his whole clown show, and he's just a pair of clown shoes. He is an embarrassment as a Fox employee, he's embarrassing. You know, peddling conspiracy theories, asking these.
Dumb
He's trying to make it
questions.
sound like it's a down low, like on the level type question.
Yeah,
He's always
yeah,
sneaking
yeah,
in his own opinion.
yeah,
And
yeah.
he's just an idiot because he gets schooled by her every week.
Oh, of course he does. Of course he does. And what's crazy is, and I did appreciate the fact that Biden called him to apologize. So I appreciate that, because he is just a classic guy, and I wouldn't have done
Yeah.
it. But that's, and Trump would never have done anything like that.
No.
And so at least he called to apologize, because he realized. Now, does he not? Does it mean he didn't feel that way? No, but it's an
He still
appropriate
does.
the president of the United States. Yeah, you know what? I think we all would. Yeah, you're right. I mean, and probably all the reporters in there went, yeah, that's right. And so, I mean, he lost his, in comparison to what we put up with for 4 or 5 years of Donald Trump, this is nothing.
Well, and think about some of the things
Yep.
Donald Trump has said in the press. That Mexican judge.
Yes.
I grab her by the pussy. I take what I want.
They are the enemy. When he points to the press, they're the enemy.
Correct.
Fake news.
Fake news.
Mm-hmm.
Made fun of that special needs reporter.
Yeah.
Of all the Trump sins, I think they documented in press conference, he told 31,000 different lies during his press conference, which is a record for presidents.
Yep.
I think, and then on top of it, we've been putting up with this stupid, let's go Brandon crap, which basically they're just saying F you to Biden.
Yeah.
And I think at some point, Biden showed a tremendous amount of restraint. But at some point, it was like during the debates, I think Biden scored a lot of points with this, when he just looked at him and goes, will you just shut up, man? I think at some point, and this is the same way in school, when you got that one dipshit that just can't shut up, misbehaves in class, teacher makes you stay out, during the passing period, so you have to run to the next class. You finally just want to take your hand and just backhand them a little bit and just go, can you just shut up, dude? Like, enough is enough. There's a difference between doing your job and asking hard questions and being a son of a bitch. And so, this was his fuck around and find out moment. And Biden said, you found out, and I called you exactly what all Americans think of you that have any sanity, and if you're going around peddling conspiracy theories yourself, you're probably going to defend Peter Douchebag. But he is a douchebag. He's an embarrassment to media, and he's not. To me, you talk about fake news. I mean, he's peddling crap every week. And your mic's not on, by the way, so nobody can hear you. Except
I was chewing. I didn't want to.
Right? No,
Sorry.
I get it. So if you did want to jump in, just so you know.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah. Got it.
Just. I mean, at what point do you not respond? At what point do you respond? And I'm sure you've got a lot to say about that. So we're gonna.
No, I think what he said was it inappropriate for a president of the United States to say? 5 years ago, I would have said yes. That's very inappropriate. Trump changed the game. We will never be able to, for good or bad. You cannot ever compare anyone to how unprofessionally and uncouth Trump was. And for all the people who are Trump followers, your guy changed the game. Get over it. You know what? And we will still be more polite than you, but we're not going to play the same nice game as we did before. We're going to call you out just like, I don't see anything wrong with that. In the professional world, that wouldn't have been allowed. He probably would have had a very strong talk to by the HR department or whatever, and then we would have apologized and so forth. So I think what happened was great, but at the same time, he's a human being. And
at some point, when you keep poking the bear, eventually the bear claws you back. And he just got clawed, and it is what it is.
Yeah.
Well, this is Trump like to say, stand by.
Yep. Yeah.
We called out to his white supremacist
That's right.
terrorists,
Yep.
and then we saw on January 6th when presidents misbehave. Anyway, the next topic is safety first is a theme in the Winter Games in Beijing.
Okay.
So the Chinese government is hosting, or China is hosting the Winter Games in Beijing this year in the 2022 Winter Olympics, and hugs are discouraged at the games, but the Winter Games, the IOC is handing out condoms to all the athletes.
Oh.
And so they are sending out a message, which I don't think is a bad message. It is a social bit. There's, however many, I think there's 10 or 15,000 Olympians that'll be there at the Winter Games. And obviously there's going to probably be some getting to know each other. Maybe they won't be doing some hugging, but maybe they'll be doing some other things, a little bit of loving. And so they're just to make sure that people weren't going to make babies or spread STDs. They have made a decision to hand out condoms. But I thought it was funny. It was on the news and Twitter today, and they had a picture or a bowl of condoms, and on the lead of the story. And what is your takes? What they are in the same memo. They're discouraging hugs, but they are handing out condoms. I think it's a really good policy, but it's also just kind of funny. It just made me giggle just a little bit. It was a little lighthearted news.
Yeah, I think I don't remember which one it was. I don't know if it was in Russia or what country, that whatever the Olympics was there. And it was when social media was really first starting, and Tinder had just started. And they had said that the Olympic Village had broken records for Tinder because they were having sex with each other so much, and they were finding people to have sex. Well, it only makes sense. You have young, hot athletes in the prime of their life, the prime of their adrenaline is up, all the things are going, and they work up, and then they're finished. They got to release that energy. And so when I heard that story, I kind of keyed because I was like, those horny. And so then I thought, it's probably been that way always. It's just came to light because they were able to measure the traffic of Tinder. And so I'm not surprised, because I imagine, and I don't know, but I can only imagine the guy athletes getting ready to go and go, there's going to be some nice people there, because they party after they finished. These are people. I would not be surprised. I would expect frolicking to occur.
Well, and not only are they young, but you're also talking about people that are in a very small community of people.
Yes.
When you're talking about world-class athletes that can qualify for the World Games, the Olympics, and all these different international events, you're talking about probably arguably the best of the best in each of their individual sports or team sports. So some of these people have been in the Olympics game for 5, 10, 15
They've been
years.
They've been training for years.
So
and
these are people they know.
They know. Yeah, exactly.
When you're a young athlete or even a middle-aged athlete, and you've been performing at a high level for a long time, you don't have a lot of social downtime either. So a lot of people don't realize these people train year round. This isn't modern sports isn't something you do for a few months and then you have an off season and go do a different job. This is now their job. This is the modern Olympic athlete makes money at it. They get sponsorships. They get maybe paid by their government. However they but they make a living at this. This is what they do.
This is what they do.
And so they spend an enormous amount of time in the gym, in the training room, on the slopes, whatever. And quite frankly, this is kind of their Super Bowl party week. This is a cool moment in their life that they qualified for the Olympics, the granddaddy of all the deals.
Yeah.
And it's just really a cool time in their life. So you have that push of just endorphins and all those other positive.
Well, that's what I said.
And
Jenny,
quite frankly,
is
you're a long ways from home. There's COVID restrictions, so your family's not going to be there. So you're not going to have anybody checking on you.
No, exactly. Jenny,
wouldn't
you, isn't this, unfortunately, COVID didn't allow this, but wouldn't this be one of those great times to volunteer at the Olympic Village?
tell you, there's a lot of chicanery going on.
Exactly.
And I don't blame the Chinese government for handing out condoms there, or the IOC, or whoever was doing this.
That's right.
There's going to be a lot of good stories, and then there's going to be a lot of good stories that are going to make it to the media.
Exactly. Yep.
But anyway, the next one is, you need to be pretty to be in this military unit. So out of the great state of West Virginia, our good old River Tucky states to the north of us, a lesbian tech sergeant, Kristen Kinsey, was told by her immediate supervisor in this West Virginia National Guard unit that she needed to look prettier and wear more makeup and grow out her hair. So she has a very high and tight haircut, very butch, which she's in the military. And she was also applying for a full-time gig. When this happened, when the supervisor said, well, you really need to look prettier, sweet cheeks, more or less, and need to film all up. And of course, this would never be said to a male member of the military. But for some reason, this really sexist military officer told her, told her this. Well, and mysteriously, a few weeks later, for the job that she was applying for, got withdrawn. They took it off the job board. She didn't get the job. So now she is suing the United States government over this, saying that, that this was sexist and wrong and gross.
Sure.
Well, but what a bizarre thing to tell a coworker that, hey, and of all jobs, the military,
exactly,
we're not talking about, I don't know, being a fashion model for a department store, or being the public face for, I don't know, Honda of America, which would still be wrong, it'd still be sexist.
Sure.
But we're talking about an occupation where your primary job is to kill and break things. Yeah. And so their primary focus, she looked attractive, she was a nice looking woman, but she had a super short boy cut, that you would see with everybody that's in the military. I've never seen any person in the military really grow out long hair like mine.
Yeah, it's not.
So it's just a very bizarre. It's a very bizarre story. I'm sure that supervisor, which they didn't name in the article, is going to be in a lot of hot water.
Oh, of course, because I mean, and she needs to ask, look pretty for who? Yeah, I mean, who am I looking pretty for? You? I mean, exactly who am I looking pretty for?
And on top of it, she's an out of the closet lesbian.
So,
like
are you wanting me to look?
so do you think, and I'm just spitballing because this was not in the article, this is just where we go off the rails, is you think that somehow maybe he was attracted to her butchness and didn't want to feel queer himself, and he was having a little bit of a military brokeback moment, and he needed her to fill him up a little bit more because he just now figured out, or maybe is figuring out, how gay he really is?
I don't know. I'm sure there's two sides to every story, and I'm sure when he gets interviewed, he said, well, she and I were really good friends, and she came up to me and said, hey, I'm applying for this job. What do you think I need to do? And he thought he was talking to as a friend and said, maybe you need to, grow your hair out a little longer, look different, look a little pretty, because the look you have is what everyone else has. Maybe it could be innocent like that, but they obviously couldn't have been good enough friends if it insulted her.
Right. Well, and on top of it,
so regardless, so regardless of what he thought, it's not about it in a position of over someone else. You have to always operate what do they think.
And to be fair, he her supervising officer too. So this was not somebody who was just a random on the military side.
Yes, yes, yes. That's
Yeah.
exactly.
So
Exactly. So he needed to treat her with, he needed to go overboard. That's just, I don't think, and you and I've talked about this before. When situations like this happen, people shouldn't be fired because of what they did. They should be fired because they're so stupid they did it. Because if they're willing to make a stupid mistake like this, they're willing to make another stupid mistake. And that goes to how they think. And so to me, those are very dangerous people.
Especially in a job that where you literally your safety, you're talking about a military job, and I don't care what it is, whether it's building a runway and in some foreign country or driving drones or whatever the job is.
Yeah.
If it's a forward position job in any kind of deployable situation, they have a, like you said, literally an idiot.
Sure.
They would misspoke in that situation, knowing you're their supervisor, but also the fact that there's some issues he hasn't wrestled with, and
sounds like it. Yeah,
it's got some weird ideas of gender and sexuality, and probably a whole lot of other things bouncing. I probably wouldn't want to be deployed with him.
That's right.
If I was a straight guy in a critical situation with that guy, I'd be like, why are you worried about how a butch lesbian woman looks? Like do we like there's a weirdness there. Like, are we about to hear about your coming out story? And not that being gay, there's nothing wrong with being gay. The reason why the show is called Two Queers in a Truck is we're both queers. But it's just a very bizarre, like what kind of rabbit hole is this guy going down to?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's super bizarre. Our next topic is cable is counseling you. Now take your tinfoil hat and go. So 4 major cable/satellite platforms have fired Newsmax and OAN in recent months. And it's an interesting topic that an entire network can be deplatformed. It's really come about in this era of COVID, where you've had these hyper partisan groups, OAN and Newsmax, both basically are just extensions of Trump's PR team, more or less. I mean, they're doing the deep state, the stuff that even Fox News won't touch. And have encouraged people to drink pee and take horse paste and do all these really, really radical things that are killing people. And so now cable companies and the satellite companies are going, we really don't need this on our offerings anymore. We've got 3, 4, 5, 6, 700. We've got like 19 ESPNs and all these other networks, and they're really making a conscious choice to go. In this era, this isn't even canceling or even editorializing or refusing, freedom of the press. It's just literally, these people aren't really members of the press anymore. These are propaganda channels. These channels are killing people directly, misinforming people on purpose. And it's gotten to the point where these providers, these platforms are seeing the liability of it. We got to be part of the solution, because if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. You're one or the other. And I think you saw this with Twitter right after the January 6th deal, when they deplatformed the president at that time, which was 45, the other guy. And they just, Twitter just took away Marjorie Taylor Greene's deal after 4 warnings. On the 5th one, they said, you can't do that anymore. We're going to take your account. And it's slowly but surely, a lot of the social media and media outlets and cable companies and stuff are just going, it's enough's enough. Like there's that fine line between freedom of the press and freedom of speech and murder. And you're also on mute.
Sorry. Yeah.
No, you're okay. But I figured you were about to say something.
No, I mean, I think it's a good thing, but I guess I look at it from a little bit different perspective. I don't think they dropped them because they were being conscious or woke. I think they dropped it because no one wanted to advertise on them, and they weren't making any money, and no one was watching them anymore. And so, if they were making money and there were lots of people watching them, they would have found a reason to keep him on, just like Joe Rogan is still on Spotify because they paid him $100 million and he's got 11 million listeners. But I assure you, once advertisers stop on his show, or people start pulling out and they get less and less viewers, like Neil Young, like maybe Lady Gaga, maybe some other progressive entertainers who say, you know what, I don't make that much money on Spotify. I'm going to go just to Apple, or I'm just going to go just to Amazon. And I think people start making those decisions and say, you know what, the hit we're going to take on Joe Rogan is not worth the hit that we may take on all these other artists. And so I do think that these DirecTV and all the ones that dropped them, yes, a lot of it, well, you can spin it. You know, the PR people say, you know, this is, we can kill two birds with one stone. We can drop them, but also no one's watching. The only time we find out about OAN and Newsmax is when it's reposted on social media. You don't hear it from someone who's actually watched the show. You just see a clip. You just see a clip that's been reposted. And so they don't really have a lot of viewers, but they get a lot of clips shared. And
and their type of, I don't even really call them members of the press, but their you know, their brand of journalism is designed to be clickbait. It's designed to be to create likes and things on Twitter and Facebook and all that. And so, you know, or you know, some conservative deals. Well, at least one media outlet confirms what I said about, you know, the vaccine or whatever. Now, you know, it may be a platform full of lies, but, you know, for them, you are right from the fact that they're not competitive with a Fox News or a CNN or an Al Jazeera or the AP or any major news outlet, whether it's on Twitter or on print media or on video TV media. They're not markedly, they're not a threat to the bottom line of AT&T, DirecTV, or any of these major companies. Like dropping those two, they basically go, we still got 700 channels, and we got tons of news channels, and those five viewers that watch these networks, they're not Jenny, those anyway.
But Jenny, don't you actually have to also think, and I know this is going to sound bougie and elitist, but don't you also have to understand the base of Trump is white, younger, rural, undereducated. That is not a prime marketing demographic that people go after. So let's just assume those are the people that watch Newsmax and OAN or whatever it is. First of all, many of them probably can't afford DirecTV. And secondly, even if they could afford DirecTV, and they did pull their money together at the trailer, to put a DirecTV signal or whatever it is, they can't afford any products that are being sold on there unless it's MyPillow. And that's the reason that golf is so valuable, because not a lot of people watch golf, but it's on NBC all the time, because the people that watch golf can afford the Lexus, can afford the BMW, the Rolex, the products they sell. So the demographic is very appealing. And so as a result of that, they can get advertisers like crazy. You know, the people that watch those stations probably don't, I mean, maybe Dollar Store. I mean,
there is a truth to that, because when you're looking at because there's the business side of TV, and you know, the biggest thing that they have is the advertising dollar. And every social media network is the same way. Facebook depends on advertising doors open because it's free. You can you download the app and you get an account. They don't charge you anything, but the trade-off is that you get all kinds of ads popping up and stuff like that. It's so viewership is very important. And when the demographic is both a very small demographic, there's a small amount of even conservatives will even waste their time watching that kind of trash TV. And then on top of that, they do enough market data. There's several companies out there that track who views what, and, you know, it's very easy to track. with the Nielsen ratings and all that.
Yep.
And they know exactly the kind of demographics
Yes, exactly.
they're drawing or not drawing. And advertising rates are set on that.
Mhm.
So I
Yes.
was in advertising and business advertising for a
Mhm.
short while. And so you get a buy, basically what is called a buy rate. And
Yep.
especially if you're buying blocks of time on a
Mhm.
cable network, like a local cable network,
Sure.
and you're advertising on a local network, you may get a
Mhm.
sampler pack that plays from 12 to 12,
Mhm.
from noon to 12 midnight.
Yep.
You get a certain amount of prime time, a certain amount of this, you get it on
Mhm.
30 different cable channels.
Yeah.
A lot of those advertisers may say, well, on the local deal,
Mhm.
I don't want to be on these channels. I don't want to be on
Sure.
Newsmax. I want to be on OAN. My
Yeah.
customers will never
Yeah.
see me
Yeah.
because I sell, a very specific product, and I just
Mm-hmm.
don't want to attract that type of buyer.
Exactly.
And
Or they couldn't afford it. Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
the bottom
Yeah.
line, in a low key way of saying, is that these
Mhm.
are a bunch of poor dumb white people
Yeah.
that we're not. That's not our market,
Yeah.
like
Exactly.
maybe
Yeah.
maybe it's an elite club or
Yeah.
something like that, and
Exactly.
they're like,
Yeah.
those people can't even spell our name, much less afford it.
Exactly. They can't even spell OAN.
Yeah, yeah. Even if they spot them the O and the N, like
Exactly.
the old Terry Bradshaw joke when
Yeah.
what's his face said, Terry Bradshaw's so dumb he can't even spell cat, even if I told him to get spotted in the C and the T. Is the you're talking about a pretty low brow
Yeah.
deal, and they also just they're not comparable to Fox, and
No.
Fox is horrific of human beings and practices that they have, and how many lies they've told, how many lies they've amplified. They're still a marketable product,
Yeah.
and they're still part of a bigger Fox company that has a regular TV station that has
Yeah.
The Simpsons, and like they've been
Mhm.
been a major player in the TV market for 40 years. And
Mhm.
so you literally have, I think there's just a certain amount of bandwidth any company can promote.
Mhm.
And there's probably times they're going like, there's no real loss. Like, we're not going to lose money. We're not going to lose any
Yeah.
sleep. And so it's a great way to virtual signal a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah. That's
Pat
yeah.
themselves in the
Exactly.
back that we're the good guys,
Exactly.
that we're gonna
Yeah.
do something, woke and all that. And at
Yeah.
the same time, they're gonna
Well,
dump two
yeah.
networks that are trash can networks anyway.
Exactly. And that's and to be fair, that's what's so great about this show and our other show. This show is targeted towards LGBTQ plus people who have higher dispensable income, who are, who are in positions of professional positions and all kinds of positions. And so an advertiser would be great to, and then our other show, it's a Latinx show. There's a lot of dispensable income up for Latinx individuals, English speaking Latinx professionals. The number one demographic in college right now is Hispanic women. They are the future. And so, we are both in two platforms and two shows that are the future. And
What a phenomenal plug at the end of our show here, too. What a great idea.
How was that, girl?
If anybody wants to
I learned some marketing from you.
we are a hot commodity.
That's right.
And so I appreciate that. And on that note, that is the end of our topics. And
all right.
We signed off on the right way. And we kept pretty close to our time budget.
All right.
So I appreciate you guys viewing and tuning in every week and listening to all of our crazy random thoughts. And we'll leave out on the same song.
All right.
And we're heading out to San Francisco.
Bye, y'all. See you next week.
Bye, y'all. Thank you.
Bye, boo boo.